Other than physical. Physical is a big part, you know that. And like one thing that we were talking about before is that you have the ability to answer a lot of their questions about OCS because you've been to your 6 weeks. You know, the second 6 weeks is pretty much the same. You know, so you understand how things are going to work day to day. So a lot of those minutiae of questions they're going to ask, they can obviously and probably already have gotten from you. My input on that, other than physical, would be things to study or study that Google Doc. And he's probably already talked to you guys about that, or the Google Drive, sorry. Everything that you're going to be tested on at OCS is on that Google Drive. Like literally everything. There's nothing on there that's going to be, that's not on there. Things as far as outside of the classroom to help you mentally would be understand that 5-paragraph order really well and understand what it means. So like at OCS, a lot of what you're doing with that is, is you're hitting wickets. It's going to be, filling in blanks. And when you get briefed in order, you're plugging stuff into those blanks, and then you're going to regurgitate it confidently to your squad, I guess is the biggest you do, and then you're going to lead them through whatever assault you guys do. But it will help you a lot if you understand what each of those wickets mean. So like understand each part of the 5-paragraph order, understand, what really should go into it. That way, if you get caught off guard and you forget something through fatigue or whatever, you know what's going to go there because you understand how that order goes together. And that comes from reading about it and then getting reps in go online. And I actually never did it beforehand because I didn't prepare as well as I could have. But Eck and Weiler can probably talk to the office and they can probably get you some little simulated frag orders.
Captain Fontanez or Captain Leday could give you guys what is effectively like an order, and then you could have them translate it into like a squad level order or a fire team level order or whatever. Mm-hmm. Realistically, you're never going to do a fire team except at OCS, but like you'll be able to then, like he said, get practice on reading and understanding that order format. That format is literally everything. Like I know Captain Fontanez comes by and he teaches that class on the 5-paragraph order, and he does a lot more detail than you saw at OCS, right? All these other acronyms that you've never seen before.
Like BAMSIS,
You won't see any of that at OCS, at juniors, seniors, or at OCC, but it will become important when you get to TBS. And you're gonna get taught it at TBS again, so you don't need to like memorize it now. But if you wanna like continue your professional military education before you get there, and you have time, I would suggest going ahead and starting to investigate the actual meat and potatoes of the 5-paragraph order format, because that's your life as an officer, is analyzing a situation, coming up with a decision on how to deal with it, and then translating that into an order that you're going to give your subordinates or your peers on how to basically translate your plan from your mind into this standard format that everyone's going to understand, and then they can go ahead and execute it without me, basically. That's what your job is going to be. And you're going to be doing it with them, but you have to be really good at writing and also receiving and understanding those orders. So as far as academically, that's probably the biggest thing I'd say to study, for your continuing career. But again, as far as OCS goes, that Google Drive has all the stuff that you're going to need for the classes that's going to make a difference between you passing and failing. You can write that down if you want. But and then other things besides stuff I think this actually is on the Google Drive, but if you read MCDP 1 Warfighting is one of our doctrinal publications, that's something that everyone has to read. It's like you read it like day 1 at TBS, and you probably should read it a couple more times.
It's a small pub.
It literally, you can read it
150 pages.
Not even. I don't think it's probably like 60 pages. Yeah. It's like it's on PDF version online. You can get it. You don't have to buy it. I don't know where you would buy it. It's for free online. MCDP 1 Warfighting. Go through, read that, and like read it for understanding. And it kind of teaches a lot of the basics on kind of how the Marine Corps operates. Like it goes through the basics of maneuver warfare and our philosophy of how we want to fight and how you want to be a leader. So you're asking stuff about leadership. Read MCDP 1 Warfighting and MCDP 1, is it 1 TAC 0?
1 TAC 3.
1 TAC 3, Leading Marines.
1 TAC 3 is tactics.
You need to read tactics.
MCDPD 1.
So it's MCDP.
I'll write it down for you, and then because it's like numbers and letters and shit.
Yeah.
I'm talking kind of fast. It's
It's all
fine.
good.
And if you need us to like repeat anything, I know how it is. Like the whole, we'll probably be talking faster than you can write sometimes. So don't hesitate to ask us, me to repeat things.
And a lot of it can get really confusing because like
There's a lot of acronyms.
Yeah, the acronyms like
And-
they get drilled into your head.
Yep.
And like he can say stuff to me, and I kind of know what he's talking about because I have a taste for it.
Yep.
But if you've
Or
never
you can
heard
figure
of
it out because he's saying these letters probably means this, you know. But like, if you're not, it's not gonna make sense to you. That's fine. And like the people watching the video, they're gonna, Google acronyms, but the acronyms aren't important at OCS. You're gonna get taught everything you need to know.
Is it 1 Tech 3?
It's one tech two, I think. Because that was
Google it real quick. I don't want to get in the wrong one.
All right.
Yeah, there's basically there's a lot of these. MCDP or MCWP is Marine Corps Doctrinal Publication or Marine Corps Warfighting Publication. They're kind of like primers, so you read them and then you have like the basic level of knowledge about.
That's
Marine
MCW.
support.
That one's a WP. MCWP 6 tactical.
all the way up.
Oh. Yeah, but that is probably more important for them to read than definitely than tactics.
Yeah, don't even bother. Like again, right now you're focusing on getting through OCS, and you're gonna learn all that stuff about like the more complicated stuff about tactics. You have hours and hours of classes on it, and you have study time at TBS.
And honestly,
you
like,
don't need to worry about really delving into that too, unless you just want to for your own personal interest.
Tactics is not your worry for OCS because you're not implementing.
It's always
any
going to be a
tactics.
frontal attack, and
Yeah.
it's always going to be against 2 to 4 sergeant instructors. Like it's like a formula. It's always
Yeah.
the same. So,
Not that you blow it off, but like but tactics isn't what they're teaching at OCS.
Yeah.
You're not learning tactics. You're not
you
learning.
don't have to analyze the
military
situation.
skills
They
per
give
se.
you all of that.
Right. You're learning leadership, and you're being screened for leadership at OCS. OCS is a screening process, whereas TBS is
Actually
it's
learn
a
shit.
learning
A lot of
environment
shit.
where
It's
you
awesome.
it's a lot of information. Like, don't be intimidated by that, but like take that as you will. You're learning all the meat and potatoes of what you're going to do as a second lieutenant, especially if you're going to be a
rifle platoon commander.
Right. So
Yeah.
when you graduate the basic school, which comes directly after OCS, so we'll delve into the basic school a little bit because I know that was one thing that I didn't know anything about. Like to the point where when we were about to graduate 10 week, we still thought we had no idea like what the POI, like the period of instruction at TBS was going to be like. We had no idea of the schedule. Nobody would tell us about it because they didn't really know because it changes. But we had literally no idea until we stepped on TBS the day after we graduated, and I knew more about OCS long before, you know. So it was kind of a rough transition, not knowing anything. Anyway, the basic school, if you're a 10-week guy, so if you're OCC and you've completed college, you're going to go directly to TBS. Like you'll probably have one day between you to see your family. You report the next day. It's usually a Monday. And that's going to be your 6-month period of instruction on your becoming a provisional rifle platoon commander. So it starts out with you hit orders again, the orders process again
Individual
right
skills.
off, and then individual skills, yeah. And then you move into squad level. You have your squad package for another 2 months-ish, and then you have a platoon package for another 2 months. And then you finish out through the platoon package. Because ultimately, in the fleet, you're
Spend
never
a lot of time.
you're gonna You're gonna be at the platoon level,
Yeah.
which is 50. It depends on the unit, like 30 to 50
Yeah,
Marines.
small details doesn't matter. Basically, yeah, TBS. You go in, and I think it gets neglected a lot. No one talks about TBS that much because they're so focused on OCS, and then they get done with OCS, and they're like, what the fuck do I do now? You know, or they get to the end of OCS, and they're like, shit, I don't want to do this for another 6 months. I'm gonna decline my contract or my commission, or I'm gonna, leave the Marine Corps or something like that. Or they're just getting, in the best case, they get in a bad attitude because they're like, now I have to be still in Blanco for another 6 months. Guys like us, we get a break because you won't go straight to TBS probably once you graduate.
Yeah, so
You'll
quick
probably work
clarification,
TCAT.
yeah, if you were any PLC, if you're PLC combined or you're PLC separate like you guys.
So maybe explain just so that the people watching the video know like how your process went through, because I feel like the two of you really cover just about any kind of way that you could go in.
Okay, so I joined the program the summer before my junior year of college, and I was work through whatever application process that everybody does. I went on the board in the winter and got into PLC, and I was going to go to PLC combined because I was a junior, but they ran out of spots or something that year. They like overcommitted the PLC program, so I ended up going to juniors the summer after my junior year, and then finished my senior year, and then went to seniors the summer after my senior year. So after that, I was commissioned immediately upon being done with seniors, and then went to work permissive temporary additional duty. That's what PTAD stands for, with the recruiting station in Raleigh. So I was basically the OSO's helper, kind of sidekick kind of deal. It was a pretty chill job. They're just keeping you there in a holding pattern until you go to TBS. After that, I got orders to go to TBS on September 11th of this year. So I reported to Quantico, Virginia again for TBS, and I've been there ever since. So, yeah, you tell your
Yeah. So do you recommend? I guess you really can't decide. I know you said you went. Is it better to go to the 2 6 weeks or just that 1 10 week?
Well, you won't have a choice.
You don't really have a choice.
So it's like
choice.
it's 6 1/2 dozen the other man.
Pros and
honestly.
cons to both.
Yeah, that's what I would say. People will say, oh, it's better to knock it all out at once,
If you
or
can-
it's better to have a break.
If you can physically handle 10 weeks all at once,
Yep.
it's definitely better. The
It's
only bonus of going to 2 6 weeks is that sometimes guys that may not have been able to make it through 10 weeks because their bodies were starting to break down, they can do 6, and then they can get better and go back to the 10 or the next 6. But the problem with the 2 6 is that kind of the next 6 is easier because 1, you know what's coming, 2, you've already done it, but there is that like apprehension of, also know how much it's going to suck. So you're not looking forward to, ignorance is bliss basically. So you're not looking forward to going back for another 6 weeks the next summer. You're like,
Yeah, again, there's
shit,
pros and cons to both. I joined the program the summer before my senior year, so a little after him, and I contracted pretty quickly thereafter for OCC 225, which was the combined 10-week. Well, not combined. It's separate from PLC. It's the 10-week session in starting in June. So I started OCS June 3rd of this past year, and I completed August 12th and commissioned that day, and then was on deck at TBS August 14th. So we had one day in between.
Yeah.
It was
And you didn't know it, right?
whirlwind. Well, I knew that I was going straight there, but there was no clear information about what happens when you get there. So they used to do a 2-week rest period after OCS for those guys going straight there, where you basically check in on that Monday and then have 2 weeks where you can go and it's basically like permitted leave essentially, but they don't do that anymore, and nobody told us. So we all thought we were having a 2-week period of leave up until the day we commissioned and checked in, and they were like, no, you guys are here now. So you check in literally you commission for those combined guys. You commission on graduation day, right after the graduation ceremony. You literally go change over. It's a Saturday, yep. And then you go and check in at TBS that day. So you have to check in by 1400 or something that day. And then you go home, you're released to do whatever, and then you come back on that Monday and you start the POI. So TBS, just to kind of delve into that a little bit, the POI, the way they're typically doing it right now, when I say POI, that's period of instruction, just for reference if I say it again. They're doing a front-loading technique now. So basically, a lot of the stuff that was spread out over those 6 months is now compressed. A lot of those intense, the heavier graded events are pushed into the first 4 months. So you're gonna kick immediately with the first week of check-in, and then it's kind of like checking at OCS. It sucks because it's just a lot of paperwork, late nights because you're trying to dot your I's correctly, and you're gonna invariably do it wrong 10 times and have to redo all these documents. But when you get through that, you're gonna have a week, I think, of garrison classes, just getting some orders processed
Real
stuff.
quick though, do you guys have any more questions about OCS or things you want to hit about
Yeah.
OCS?
I'm sure we could talk for hours about that.
Yeah, it's just
Real quick, I'll give you the basic run through for what happens at TBS. So after
that's
that,
a long
I'm
run
gonna
through.
be brief. So you go through range week where you actually shoot, because for those of you that don't know, you're not going to fire any live rounds at OCS.
All
So
blanks.
the first thing you do at TBS is you qual on the range, which is a 2-week process. And that's a pretty intense physical process. You'll figure all about that. But you qualify with the rifle on the range, and you qualify with the pistol as well. And you do have to qualify a minimum of marksman to continue on with your class.
Not hard.
It's not hard. Like literally, you have to suck really, really bad to not qualify. You'll learn about all that.
Don't sweat.
After that, you
Also,
take
range week
into-
is 2 weeks. It's
It's
not
not
1 week.
a
They
week,
call
yeah,
it range week. It's 2 weeks of hiking out there every day, like 3 miles, 2.5 miles out and back, like with all your shit. Spend the day out there, and then you hike.
You're gonna
back.
run a lot too. Like,
Yeah.
that's one thing
It's
that
a physical event.
changes. Yeah, OCS
It's-
to TBS, the weight goes up, and like at least for those first few weeks, like the hikes and the PT are intense. Like it's because you're now
It's to throwing your
in
feet up because you're
right.
gonna hike a lot
Right.
during all your training events, whether it's actual hikes. You don't do that many.
You do a 3 mile.
Conditioning
So the
hikes.
hikes you're gonna do at TBS, you do a 3 mile, a 6 mile, a 9 mile, a 12 mile, and a 15 mile. And the weights are different for all those, and the route you're gonna take is gonna be whatever your company commander decides on.
Like
But-
literally up to 6 miles per hour was, I think, our record pace with a range week load. So it wasn't a main pack, it was like a full assault pack and rifle and everything, and like flak jacket, helmet. We went like 6 miles an hour.
Yeah,
The
so
hiking
you're gonna
rifle
run,
thing.
like a lot of
It was
times you're gonna
fucking-
be running.
Short guys, you better learn,
Yeah.
start stretching your hamstrings. 'cause
So yeah, you're gonna run a lot, but don't don't take that as like I'm gonna start running with weight before OCS.
don't
You
do
will
that.
hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Don't do that as a training thing. Maybe like once a month, go out and like do a run with a weight vest or something, but not any more than that. You'll get worked up to all this. Like they're
Yeah.
gonna train you and you're gonna do it. Like unless you're not gonna die. Like you're gonna fucking do it with everybody else. But yeah, it is a little different because at OCS you're never wearing body armor or any kind of PPE, which is personal protective equipment. So that's your Kevlar and your flak jacket, which is your body armor and your helmet, and you wear that for everything. And usually it's gloves and iPro as well, all the time. Like anytime that you step off of Camp Barrett into the tree line, like on trails, like you're wearing gloves, iPro, and full PPE. So you get used to that. Yeah, you get used to that pretty quickly though. Like the first couple times, it's pretty intense. It's an emotional experience because you're like, holy shit, like I can't breathe, this stuff on me. But you get used to it real fast.
Weight tops.
Yeah. Okay. So after you get done with range week, you qualify. From then on, it's tactics and leadership stuff, and then there's just a lot of information that you need to learn. I mean, I could talk for hours on the actual classes you're going to take in the POI, but biggest squad level tactics and platoon level tactics,
Mhm.
and then you're going to integrate urban terrain with that. You're going to integrate defensive and offensive operations, which is pretty cool. Convoy operations, all that's going to play in. So by the time you graduate the basic school, you're going to be a fully qualified provisional rifle platoon commander, which what that means is you're not an infantry platoon commander. That is not what you are. You are provisional, which means if they need to call you up to serve as a rifle platoon commander in the interim, if they do not have enough infantry platoon commanders, you can fill that role. So you're not an infantry guy, but you're provisionally trained.
Could
to
be
a
if you
rifle.
had to be. Like
Right.
in Vietnam, they did that a lot.
And you'll be confident, like the amount of times you're gonna get a lot of reps, you're gonna get a lot of classes, you're gonna get a lot of training in the tree line with live rounds to perfect your skills with this stuff. So if you listen and you really take advantage of the time you get in the tree line, like you're gonna feel qualified to lead a rifle platoon if you have to.
Yeah.
And but
As far as how you were talking about being infantry, how your MOS goes.
yeah, that's a good one.
That was
That's
one of
a
the
good
questions that I know you asked. The MOS thing, there's a lot of like pre-TBS. We all try and Google it and figure out how it works, but I can tell
won't
you
find any
actually,
information, yeah.
yeah, because it changes a lot. They change how they determine your MOS relatively frequently. But the way they're doing it right now, as of fucking December of 2017, is your class ranking, which is composed of your physical performance, your academic performance, and your mil skills performance. So mil skills would be stuff like land nav, which land nav also is a big part of TBS, but
Get that later.
yeah. Anyway, those are like the main parts of it. So, and leadership.
Leadership is a big
leadership
part.
is huge. It's a huge percentage of your grade, and that's garrison billets, which are 2 weeks long. So you'll have a billet like platoon commander.
It's kind of the same as OCS.
Yeah,
It
but
doesn't go
instead
down to fire team leader though.
Instead of 2 days.
The lowest.
Well, you still have those, but they're not.
Yeah, but
graded.
they're not graded. So
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, you're gonna
All
have
the same billets as OCS, except instead of being 2 days, they're 2 weeks long, which sounds like a lot, but it's very different.
It's better because you can
Yeah.
actually get time to learn from your
Exactly.
mistakes and
To learn how to do your job.
You get time to do
You
the
don't
job.
have time to learn how to do
In
it.
2 days, you really don't get time. Again, OCS is a fire hose of them to watch how you can adapt to punches from every angle, in constant change and chaos. TBS is not like that. You're still getting lots of chaos, but it's different. They're trying to teach you. You're learning how to do a job at TBS. So that's why your billets are 2 weeks, so that you can actually learn and get feedback and actually do things as a platoon commander, not just make it to chow on time, shit like that.
So
Anyway, continue.
yeah, you have those like kind of parts of your grade that your ranking is composed of. Then when they get your ranking, it's split up into thirds. So there's a top third, a middle third, and a bottom third. All they do is just divide them up. Your ranking's not changed based on the thirds. So once they split us all into thirds, then that they basically give you your top pick they pick the first out of each third gets to pick first, and then the second out of
Yeah,
each third
so it
gets to
goes
pick second.
like this, like top third, middle third, bottom third. The first person to get picked for MOSs is the top guy on the top. The second is the top guy in the second third. Third is the top, and then it goes down from there. So
For example, so my ranking this past time I was dead center of the top third. So even though I was way ahead of all these guys, a lot of these guys would get their first pick, but there's only a certain number of slots for each MOS for each third. So if your third runs out of artillery slots, but the other third still have some, you can't be like, I'm going to take one of them because it's done. They want to divide up the talent between each MOS. So it kind of sucks, but it's not the end of the world because that was it. Like you hang your tag and that's your MOS.
It was a pure third system back like when Captain Ledet and Captain Fontanes were doing it.
Yeah.
They do it now. They do a lot of horse trading, they call it. So basically, you rank your MOSs and then you put in one of the things they used to help is
they probably won't
put
even
in a red
talk
line
about that.
to like give you they try to get you in your top four essentially.
Yeah, basically.
And
They'll
most
trade you
people
around.
are going to get something in your top four.
The average I think is 1.7, your 1.7th pick. So you're probably not going to get like number 5 or 6. But it does happen. I mean, it just depends on mostly your relationship with your SPC, which is your student platoon commander.
They're going to write a recommendation for each person in your platoon. So your student platoon commander is like your platoon commander at OCS, except
So he's a captain.
a lot more
That's
involved
like
with
your
them.
mentor.
He's more like your peer and your mentor than at OCS, where he's like, your boss. You only talk to him when you need something, and you try to avoid talking to him. But at TBS, it's a lot more like a father son or like older brother type deal.
Yeah.
If you have a good SPC, and you're big. It's
Still
very
very
important,
formal, but
it's very important that you have a really good relationship with him and that you make it known what you want, like day one. Like when you first meet with him, you come in there,
have an interview.
like, I want to be a tank officer. That's what I did. He knew from day one that I wanted to be a tank officer because there's very, very few tank officer spots. There's 3 in our company of 397. So obviously, you need to make them known if you want something that's low density, like or high density like that. Low density, anyway. But that's the gist of the MOS process. You're gonna find out, I'm gonna find out in about 2 weeks. So, let me see what part of the POI that would be. Like 5 months in, 4.5 months in. A little over 4 months in, you're gonna find out what your MOS is gonna be.
How much further ahead in TBS are you than
I am a month ahead of him.
Okay.
Yes. So we're adjacent classes. So I'm Echo Company, and which is anybody who's OCC is going to be Echo Company, unless they're injured and they're going to get rolled to Mike Company, which is a holding company at TBS.
So
you guys are going to be
I'm Fox
PLC
Company.
can be Fox,
Frozen
Alpha,
Fox Company.
or
It's a
Bravo,
Bravo, yeah.
depending on the density.
You'll likely be in Frozen Fox Company, but I think who was it? One of my buddies told me that he already had orders to go to Fox. this coming year. I don't remember who it was. Anyway, basically PLC guys, we get last dibs on spots to go to OCS or to TBS. So first dibs is Naval Academy because they're the golden children of the Navy /
They
Marine
typically
Corps.
graduate the Naval Academy and then ship straight to Camp Barrett, which is the home of TBS, which is about 12 miles from main side Quantico, where OCS is. It's really small. It's only TBS there, and IOC, which is Infantry Officers Course. So that's the MOS school for infantry officers. Anyway, Naval Academy grads go there and they check into Mike Company, which is where they are holding, and they just
You don't need to know any of this detail about what Naval Academy does.
Anyway, the next that comes is OCC guys. So we graduate in August and we fill Echo Company, and then from then on it's just
they slip us in where they can.
So like the Citadel and VMI.
They're just regular.
They're competing
not
with
considered.
OCC, so they get plugged in usually just interspersed. Like we've got Citadel and VMI
They have no
guys.
preference. The only service academy that has preference is the Naval Academy. Even West Point does not get preference.
Yep.
They can go to and get commissioned as a Marine. We have one West Point guy in my company, but it's hard for them to make that lat move from the Army because their West Point contract is stipulated for the Army, so they can do it, but it's not very common for them to do it, and then they're treated like your regular. Everyone's treated the same at TBS. Doesn't matter whether you're Naval Academy or
If you went to Oxford or if you went to
we have Yale,
yeah.
Princeton, Oxford, Harvard. Like we have two Marines that have grad degrees from Oxford. Some hard charters academically, but no one cares. Like you're just the same as everybody else. So
Well, that's good for
It's
kids
the
coming
great,
from ECU.
yeah, it's
Exactly.
the great equalizer.
Exactly.
So you will find that those guys are not any more qualified to do this job than you are, or than Joe Blow from Minnesota.
sometimes less qualified.
Yeah, a lot of times, it's all, the Marine Corps boils you down to you as a man or a woman, and your capabilities as a leader. So can you learn to be a leader if you don't already have those skills, or how can you apply those skills if you've already learned them? And that's literally your job, is being a leader, and you're being able to solve problems. So your formal education means virtually nothing, like as a Marine officer. Your further education is what will mean something to you. Your chosen professional military education and how you choose to educate yourself once after OCS and at TBS, what you're reading, what pubs you're studying, how deep you choose to get into your job, and then once you get your MOS, that's going to be where we, of course, are going to try to, once I get mine, I'm going to try to learn everything I can, or I'm going to learn everything I can about it and try to be, I'm going to be an expert at it, no matter what it is. So you as a Marine officer is what you make of it. Your formal education means very little. Where you come from means very little.
Probably one of the biggest things I think that slows people up is they come from OCS, where their order process, they give you, you remember how it was, they're going to give you an enemy situation, they're going to give you a friendly situation, and you're just going to have to know where to put things in your order, but you don't have to really come up with much yourself.
Yeah.
At TBS, if you regurgitate stuff like that, you'll have captains that are evaluating you on these like sand table exercises or around an actual terrain model in the field, and they're gonna call you on your bullshit. They're gonna be like, "That was crap." Who actually has a plan, and then you get graded on that. So you have to learn how to do actual TAC planning. Like they give you time to do it, which is the good part. Like OCS, you had no time, so you couldn't have done the planning even if you wanted to. But at TBS, you have
Overnight
plenty of time.
something,
Sometimes you have a week
weeks
to come up with an order, to develop a platoon order, because you need that to do work on at night. More often it's a couple days, but you have time to actually do the analysis, build your order and your plan, and they want you to go into an insane level of detail because you have to account for everything. And they're going to teach you how to do all of that. So you don't have to try and go and find all the details about it.
Yeah.
But those doctrinal clubs, and there's other ones that you can find links to and shit. It's all on the Marine Corps website, like TAC planning, platoon, SWAT in the offense, whatever. That's all on the Marine Corps website. You can read it. That's just the same stuff that they have you read. But
one of the things that you'll hear once you get to TBS is that the enemy situation is what you get paid for as a second lieutenant, and as an officer in general. you developing your MLCOA, which is your enemy's most likely course of action, what you think the enemy's going to do, like when I contact them at any point. So you're going to have a page of what you think the enemy is going to do before, during, and after your assault or defense. And that right there is like one of the biggest parts of your job as an officer in writing that order, because that right there is going to dictate whether or not you do a good MLCOA will dictate whether or not you're successful in your attack or your defense, because that right there is the linchpin to pretty much everything.
Yeah, like I've seen attacks. I just got out of doing FEX 2, so we can talk about the FEX in a second, but I just got out of the second field exercise, which is platoon in the offense and the defense. So we spent like a week out there. We were in the defense at this point, and this platoon attacks us, and the platoon commander's student, his MLCOA clearly was not very good, because he attacked straight into our prepared defensive, like the orientation of our prepared defense, and they got all killed, didn't even get close to our battle position, because he developed this great plan, gave a great order, blah, blah, blah. It was an excellent plan, but he failed to do the analysis the right way. So his great plan was based on non-reality. It was based on a fantasy, because he didn't spend enough time.
Going through the motions, yeah. So
exactly, he didn't spend enough time on the analysis, and then when he wrote his order, it was meaningless, because when he actually got into the real life on the deck, it was totally different, and they all got killed. So that's kind of where that comes in. And the FEXs they're a big deal. So you have some FEXs that are like attack planning FEXs, where you actually lead like Marines in the tree line, and those are fun. And then other ones are like swim FEX, which you don't swim at swim FEX. It's just squad weapons and munitions FEX. So SWM.
It's a range time.
Yeah,
You'll
it's like
go shoot
a couple
live fire
days.
ranges.
Yeah, a couple days out in the field, you shoot like a lot of like 249s and 203s and shit like that.
Yeah, so that's another thing on that. You're going to qualify at TBS with all the major weapon systems that the Marine Corps uses. You're going to start off with obviously your service rifle, your M16A4. You're going to qualify on the range. Your Beretta 92, the M9 or M6 pistol, or the M9. I'm sorry. And after that, you get your 249s, which is your light machine gun. And then you literally have like classes, and then you have like a back on base, you have disassembly and assembly, and you have weapons handling tests for all of these weapons. And you can't go and shoot them at the range until you've passed the weapons handling test. They're easy, you just have to pay attention. And you need to know it too, because when you get in the tree line, you got to know how to fix things and solve problems, because they're invariably going to go down. Anyway, belt-fed weapons have a lot of problems with them related to dirt, water. Anyway, you go from then, you get your medium and heavy machine gun classes, and so you're going to get your M240 Bravos, you're going to have, at TBS you're going to have 2 for a platoon, so there's going to be 2 guys that carry those, and they're a 30 caliber medium machine gun, tripod mounted. And then you're going to also have in with that the Mark 19 and the M250 cal, so you're going to do weapons handling and go and shoot those live fire, which is one of the best days of TBS so far for me, was getting to go out there, because you get at TBS, by that time you're officers, and you get a lot of ordnance that the Fleet Marine Force has to fight for. So like they're like, here's 60,000 rounds for a day and a half, and go shoot it all. So there's truckloads and truckloads of ammo that your entire company goes out there and just gets to bang away on like medium and heavy machine guns, and you get the Mark 19 as well, which is the 40mm grenade launcher, pretty cool, and you get to shoot HE and smoke round or practice rounds for that, which are like a chalk.
Oh, you do a day with artillery pieces.
Yep.
So you get to load and fire.
So you'll have one. Yeah, you'll have another. That's which FEX was that? That was in with
FEX 1.
In with FEX 1. So you'll have one day where you go out and half the company they rotate. So one half will be on a live fire range, and you're going to practice. So you're going to call a fire mission, and that's another thing you're going to learn about at TBS is call for fire. So you're going to call in a grid mission on a tank. It's like 2,000 meters away, and call in live artillery rounds. Pretty cool. And or live mortar rounds. There's mortar tubes there with you as well.
81mm, like big mortars.
And then you're going to go around. It's a couple miles away to the actual tubes, and you're going to watch them shoot. And there's
y'all posted an Instagram video.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, man.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
I wish I would have got one of me calling for fire.
And they'll let you shoot. Like they'll let you run the gun a little bit, like pull the cord and pick up shells. You just have to ask because they're not going to tell you to. Like, you know,
if you insert yourself, then they'll let you. The only thing they won't let you do is load and fire the mortars because you have to get a class.
Yeah,
on
mortars is
Mm-hmm.
one thing that as a second lieutenant you're not going to deal with other than call for fire, because you have to be at least a captain to be a mortar platoon commander, because it takes a high level of skill to run mortars, and they're very dangerous, especially 60 mortars. Because
you're standing like 5 feet from shooting it.
You get to go.
You get to check out everything. You just can't actually. They don't let you actually drop.
So was it like your platoon commander that was shooting them off in that video?
There's an actual.
You have a.
That was just the. There's units of Marines, like there's a battery, artillery battery.
They're attached to the basic schools.
Yeah.
In support.
Oh, that's all they do,
solely in
right?
support of basic schools.
That's their
So
job.
there's 4 howitzers and I think 6 81s and like 12 60mm mortars, all attached to the basic school in IOC. So they literally, their only job is to work in support and fire in support of the basic
They
school in
function
IOC.
the same way they would if they were
Right,
in the fleet,
and it's usually
but-
it's an extremely they're like the best gunners and the best artillerymen and mortarmen in the Marine Corps, and they are almost all sergeants. So normally it'd be comprised of a wider range of ranks, but these guys have pretty much been handpicked to do a rotation through the basic school. Yeah, and so they're there to give you a really good understanding of the artillery pieces, the mortar pieces, their capabilities, their limitations, and how you can best utilize them, because that's what you're going to be doing as a platoon commander is you're going to be using these different tools in your toolboxes. And that's what TBS is all about. It's about giving you all these tools for your toolbox, rockets, mortars, medium, light, heavy machine guns, and demo. You're going to work with demolitions for engineer effects, so you're going to work with
claymores and stuff.
Claymores, TNT, C4. Like they're going to teach you about cratering charges, like pushing and heaving charges, deck, different types of deck cord, mines, Bangalore
Like
torpedoes,
so clearing obstacles.
Right, you're going to learn. Yeah, you're going to learn the obstacle clearing process, the breaching process. You're going to do. You're going to do a little bit of mine sweeping, but that doesn't come to effects 3. You haven't done that yet. But you learn on the mine detection devices, which are pretty shitty, to be honest. But anyway, that's like the meat and potatoes of basic school. The things I haven't done yet at the basic school are the MOUNT, which is Military Operations in Urban Terrain. That's coming about a week after I get back. And that's just a week-long thing where you're working in and around structures instead of being in the tree line. And then there's a convoy fix where you're working with vehicles, vehicle-mounted machine guns, transportation of supplies, things like that. Do you guys have any questions about TBS, or we can swing back to OCS
So
too?
I know you hit it. You said fun things. What was probably like the funnest thing, or the most exciting thing you've done, and then reverse spectrum, the least, the crappiest thing that
I know the crappiest thing off right.
Yeah, like that just sucked.
Yeah.
And then the funnest thing, I guess.
Funnest thing for me, I think, was.
What do you got? Water?
Yeah.
Just water is fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm good. Thank you.
Hey, Jackson.
I'm good. I got a lot of things.
Funnest thing was probably for me, because I want to be an artillery officer, so was shooting and calling for fire, and actually cranking off rounds, and then also getting to get on the radio and call in live rounds, and really in real time get to practice what they teach you about this call for fire process. Like you get a map and a compass, and they're like, here, drop arty rounds on that. So you have to. You have to actually know what you're doing, and it was kind of cool to see it work, and to actually see that whatever tank or whatever it was out there blow the fuck up was pretty cool. But yeah, that was probably the funnest part for me. And then the worst part was, and this wasn't really reflective of the POI, it was really more reflective of just the weather, because that's a big limiting factor at TBS, especially when you're in Frozen Fox companies, it's the winter, was during squad weapons and munitions specs. We were out there for 2 days and 1 night in the field, so not very long, but it was about 35 to 45 during the day, and it was raining torrentially, and it was pretty bad, just getting soaked, and a lot of people only had 1 pair of camis. We had a couple of near hypothermia cases, because it was just, you're out there all day, and it was blowing the wind and the rain. and you're just freezing your dick off because you're soaked, and you have your Gore-Tex, but after a while it just gets soaked through. And we had to just basically stand there. We had our 249s up there on the line, but it was so wet, the range had become like soup. It was just mud water that you had to like get up and then you had to lay back down in it to try and fire your 249, and we each had 50 rounds. And it took some guys over an hour to fire 50 rounds because they wouldn't let you get up until you were done firing those rounds because they're not going to throw them away. And it was so nasty and muddy. When people were trying to clear the machine guns out, it was getting mud in the top cover and in the feed tray, and it was just like they were just all crapped out. They had bottles of CLP trying to make it work. It was just like an exercise in futility, and eventually they called it off, and we had to come back again the next night. But it was just like, that was probably the shittiest day for me, was just having to just kind of stand out there freezing in the rain and knowing that you weren't going anywhere anytime soon was pretty shitty. But you know, as long as you're doing something, the cold and the wet isn't quite as bad, but that was pretty shitty. But you might have a sunny day, you never know.
Weather is the thing that will make TBS shitty for you, because you know, and physically at OCS it's like the physical stuff is usually the, you know, you remember that as being the shittiest. So I know you haven't done it yet, but Sully 1 for you, and then when you do Sully 2, like for me, that's what I'm saying. I did Sully 1, but so like I'll do an OCS and a TBS one. OCS Sully 2 is probably was like the worst couple days because it's intense. Like you leave it all out there. You know, it's I forget all the details of what we did because I was like delirious for some of it, but you know, the closest I got to that was FEX 1. The shittiest day I had at TBS was the end of FEX 2 actually, and we had kicked off. It was like the last day, so it was the end of the week, and the weather was pretty good, but I had been out there, and you know, you're tired kind of from the week. We kicked off our morning attack. We were attacking an established defense, but we were doing with our main pack. So we're doing with like our full field load, which was like 100. Mine was like 120 pounds because I had an extra radio, which these big radios, you'll learn all about that. Like they fucking suck. They weigh like 30, 40 pounds. So we did the first part of the attack where you're, you know, moving to a rally point and then you're gonna actually start the attack. It's called an ORP. So like I moved with the platoon to the ORP with all of our, you know, main packs and everything. So, you know, pretty wore out from that. Then you kick a leader's recon, which is, you know, supposed to be pretty quick. You go up with like your chosen leaders. The platoon commander takes them up, gets eyes on the objective, the defense, sneakily tries to get some more information about it, goes back, leads the attack. You know, maybe updates a few things on the plan based on what he sees. Anyway, we go up, and I was a squad leader, so I went on that leader's recon, and we got ambushed, and then proceeded to a death march. We start calling it the death march because we literally went like 5 miles around with, and I'm still carrying this radio too, because we were able to drop main packs, but you're carrying your assault pack with the radio in it, and did this crazy death march all the way around 5 miles to the other side of the defense because we couldn't cross this road at a certain point. Then had to come back, kick the attack, and then somebody had an antenna get ripped off one of their radios. So right after we were done with all this, like literally hadn't sat down this whole time, it's probably like 4 in the afternoon at this point. We had to walk the leader's recon route twice to look for this antenna in the woods. And then after that, we had to go back and pick up our main packs and then hike them up the road to the LZ to get out. So that was like the shittiest day. I was pretty fucking broke off after that, thinking like, it reminded me of Sully too. Like, you know, I was more tired then than Sully, but I was like, fuck this.
It's like 30 miles in one day.
Oh yeah, I mean, like you're moving a lot, and like the only thing that made it shitty was carrying that radio and you not being able to, but that's the nature of being a platoon commander, is like, you're never gonna be that guy sitting at the ORP, like especially when you hit the fleet, like you're always gonna be the one on the leader's recon. So it's good to get used to it now, you know, but yeah, that was the shittiest day. The best day was probably the medium and heavy machine gun specs, because that's just awesome. Like, you know, they put on a great show out there with integrating fires of all those machine guns and mortars, and then you get to go just like have at it, you know. I mean, it's orderly, of course, but you get to shoot like 50 rounds through each one, and like 100 rounds through the 240s, so that's pretty freaking awesome. And yeah, So let's swing it back to OCS because I know that's closer on all these people's radar screen. What do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I know that some of the questions they had asked were, and I had tried to answer, but for some of the guys that are more concerned with the academic portions of it, not necessarily the physical or the leadership, but the academic part of it.
Yep.
I told them that definitely the tactics and the history are probably going to be the most difficult.
Yeah, because that'll be the most things that you have to actually know, like numbers, pretty much. Although you're not going to really have to regurgitate a lot of numbers on those tests.
Yeah.
You need to know basic dates, like big dates and big numbers, but it's not going to be in crazy detail. And like you know that, like you can probably.
The tactics are pretty self-explanatory too.
Yeah, the tactics are extremely like basic level tactics. So again, like as long as they're going through that the
check it
Google
out a
Drive.
couple times. You should be good with tactics.
As long as they've seen it before on that Google Drive, they should be just fine when they get there. And
you'll actually get to do it. You get to practice it.
Right. And you'll see, like once you get to OCS, learning things, especially tactics and formation. So like, I think by tactics you're probably specifically meaning like the formations and movement and like
yeah. Well, I mean, like we
squats,
introduced a lot of like the hand and arm signals and all that stuff.
Yeah,
like,
that stuff is definitely like people don't memorize that, and I would focus on that because you're gonna use it and you need to know it in class. So it would be good to understand a lot of that before you went, because I didn't look at that at all, and so I was going from a 0 point on that, and it would have helped me to know those hand and arm signals and those formations better, because if you know them immediately, so like you see written squad wedge, fire team wedge. If you're trying to think like, wait, where does the automatic rifleman go? Like, where does the team leader go in the squad wedge? Like, you're behind already. You need to immediately think of that and know, bing, bang, boom, I know where everybody's going to go. And at OCS, it's not going to happen because people are going to be internal and shit. But at TBS, a great unit, everybody knows where they're going. So like, if you're the platoon commander and you give that arm signal, you have to do nothing. And you guys might be strung out over like 200 yards, but you know that platoon is moving exactly where they need to be. And basically know that stuff before you go to OCS. You don't have to know it by heart. But if you've seen all these hand and arm signals and all these formations before, and you have a general understanding of what a wedge is, and columns, fire team, online is online, the different symbols and the hand and arm signals, that would be very beneficial.
History fucks people up a lot too, like grade wise.
Yeah, so if you don't have a background in the military, like if your family isn't, like your dad's not a Marine, like you haven't watched the History Channel a lot, if you don't know about general Marine Corps history, like it would be very good to understand where the Marine Corps started, where they've been over the last 200 years, and how they got there, who they were fighting,
in the history,
right? Big names, generals. You need to know the generals, and your command structure now, it would be good to know them because you're going to get asked that
during
inspections. Yeah, during inspections.
Who's the assistant commandant? I didn't even know there was an assistant commandant.
Yeah, like the leadership training command. Don't ask me to tell you now because I can't. But yeah, things like that. And yeah, anything else?
I think something that got me the biggest was the breakdown between like what's the difference between a MEV, a MU, and a MEF, like while I was at OCS, because I don't think it was ever introduced like while we were here at school.
They hit on it like very briefly in class, and I remember being confused by that too. So a Marine, it's in the name. So like a Marine Expeditionary Battalion is a battalion. So you've heard people talk about MUs, right?
Yeah.
Like the Marine Expeditionary Unit.
Yeah.
A Marine Expeditionary Unit is a term that can be used to describe any of those. So
it could be literally as small as like a platoon reinforced, like two platoons.
I don't think it's usually smaller than a battalion, but anyway, so like it can be
small.
Marine Expeditionary Battalion.
Well, the MUSOC is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, a MUSOC is just a MU that's special operations capable. It's not a special operations team. It's a MU with special operations in it. Anyway, doesn't know what he's talking about, but
sometimes it's confusing.
A lot of MUs are MUSOC, so it's a MU like a regular MU, but it just has special operations personnel attached to it. So I think they may hit on that. I don't remember.
So a MU is describing a MEF or a MEB.
Yes. Like
it can.
99%.
It can be, yeah. But like I know it's confusing, but a MEB and a MEF are just different size and different command structure terminalities for the same essential thing. Like they're both a Marine Expeditionary Unit. Marine Expeditionary Forces is a broader term, whereas a Marine Expeditionary Battalion is a more refined term for both being Marine Expeditionary Units, which are going to be a conglomerate of, like, we're going to have infantry, artillery, AAVs, possibly tanks, and whatever else supporting
some kind of air.
Yeah, there's going to be air, and there's going to be logistics and communications attached within that. So it's kind of like a little slice of the Marine Corps with cross sections from each unit, balled up, stuck on a few transport ships and an aircraft carrier, and shipped wherever we need to ship it around the world. And they're, they'll keep them sometimes on rotational forces, but usually they're like on, I think it's like 3, an aircraft carrier and 2 supporting ships will house a Marine.
Yeah, like
most
Marine LCSs or something.
Yeah, but anyway, that's more in depth than you need to know. Like then you'll need to know for OCS. Obviously, you're going to want to know it when you get to fleet. But again, I don't know all the details of that either.
So yeah, does that answer your question about?
Yeah, well, I mean, especially what you just said, like you don't really need to. I mean, even at TBS, like you don't know it.
No, you're not going to know. Like, I mean, there'll be questions on tests about it, but again,
almost no one refers to MEBs or MEFs. It's always the term MEU is used a lot, but I don't think since OCS I've heard the term MEB or MEF.
Me neither. Yeah, it's always MEU. But don't take that as like you don't have to know that. Like, it's important stuff.
But it's not as critical.
But it's not as critical.
That's not
so
critical.
even us, like, we're still in a phase where we're learning we're focusing on critical information. So like, there's still things that I don't know as well as I should. For example, the structure of the Marine Corps. Like, there's a lot of levels to it, and it's something you can always improve your knowledge on. But for OCS and TBS, there are more critical things that you can learn. So as long as you know generally what those things are, what they mean, who's in charge, like in a very general sense, like what level of officer.
So like per se, like they might ask you a question at OCS on a test. What level of officer would be in charge of a MEB? And you would say, well, that'd be a lieutenant colonel, right? Battalion.
Yep.
Yeah. So you say like lieutenant colonel.
Or a colonel. Yeah.
Or what officer would be in charge of a MEF? And it might be. So you just kind of have to be able to relate it to like the sizes of. Is the MEF a regimental size? I don't want to
Believe it's regimental.
But
again, don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not going to speak to what I don't know on.
I remember there being a very 3 questions on it on a test at OCS, and I studied. And then
it's all in the Google Doc too. Like all this information, like specifically,
it all should be.
It's glossed over in the Google Docs or in the Google Drive, so you can find it in.
If you want to look that up,
Marine Corps. I think it's under like the Marine Corps organization chapter.
Yeah, that's important. That's one thing people don't go into enough is the organization.
Yeah.
Not necessarily of like the expeditionary forces, but just of the Marine Corps in general, like how the air wing is organized,
right?
Or
know your
how the ground side is organized. A lot of people don't know where like regimental, battalion,
regimental numbers
stands, like how many are in each, what is in each, like how many platoons are in a company, or how many companies are in a battalion, or how many, like where does the weapons company go, and who's in charge of them, and that kind of shit. Because that's going to be stuff that you are going to be tested on at OCS, but if you don't know it when you get to TBS, you might look pretty stupid when you ask somebody a question that doesn't make any sense, because you're like, wait, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, basically.
Definitely, that's another thing.
Something you should know.
Just a little tangent. But when you get to TBS, be extremely cautious of asking questions that you can't answer, that you could answer for yourself. So like, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for you to jump up during classes with the whole company and ask your instructor things, and they don't mind, they want you to ask questions, but remember, you're constantly being evaluated, and if you ask something that is a basic question that you could have found out on your own, you're going to look real freaking stupid, and you're probably going to get laughed at, and you're coming back, you're going to look real stupid. So always try to figure stuff out on your own if you can. That applies also at OCS. If you don't need to go bang on the hatch to ask something, if you can figure it out, you figure it out. And that's will carry on in your Marine Corps career. Anyway, all
right. So so let's see. For my own selfish curiosity, like, what does someone who's already finished juniors or someone that's about to go into the 10-week, what do they have to look forward to for, like, let's say the second half of training?
The second half is very different. I was not looking forward to going back to seniors. I know guys that literally dropped the program because they were that apprehensive about going back to seniors. But I can tell you right now, it is not all as bad as some people hype it up to be. It's very different once you get into, if you're at OCC, you're, say, the second half
It's
of
a
training.
marathon. You've already been doing it, so
or
a lot
if-
of it, you're already pretty much in doc and you're adapted
Yeah.
to that life.
So you go back to seniors, and it's like you kind of pick up in the middle. So you do have a like after in processing, you have
Another in doc phase.
Yeah,
Or
what
no,
do they
it's
call it?
adaptation phase.
phase. So like haze phase. So they're fucking with you. They're gonna do the same thing. I didn't think it was as bad as it was at juniors, but I had a pretty hardcore staff at juniors. So my staff at seniors was a little bit more chill. So that was nice. And then after it's only like 5 or 6 days of that phase where it was 3 weeks at juniors.
Mhm.
So after that's done, it's still OCS, but they're kind of pulling back on the reins a little bit. There will again only be one of your instructors around with you at a time. So that transition that happened 3 weeks into juniors happens almost after the first week of seniors, the first real week. So like you have in processing, but after that couple of days, it only takes about 3. You start into that.
The
And
biggest
then,
part of that phase is that you will be, your platoon or your student, what do they call it, your student platoon staff will be in charge of running your day, your schedule. And
you're talking about TBS, bro. I'm not.
No, I'm talking about OCS. Like your student platoon staff will be in charge of getting you place to place.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna leave it more up to you. Like you're
Sort
gonna
of
be
like
in
the
charge
last
of
week of juniors.
making sure, right? Like so they're gonna be in charge. You're gonna be in charge of making sure
Oh, you're talking
your
about-
platoon is getting where they're supposed to be going on time.
Yeah.
So that's
They let up, and it becomes
right.
more on you guys.
There's still a sergeant instructor there, and they're gonna like, but they're not jumping in all the time, and they're not giving those orders. But then when you mess up, which they invariably will, they're like, you're gonna get busted for that.
They're still going to screw with you. It's OCS, but it's very different. It's more about actually teaching you stuff because it's supposed to be the last half. They start doing a lot more. The evaluations are harder, but they're not like that much harder. I mean, most guys that Suli 2 is tough,
And
but
what's the height that? What is it?
9.3.
It's a 9.
It's with Suli 2. Like you do it that morning and then you do Suli 2. But yeah, the physical and academic evaluations are harder. But other than that, it's pretty much you're gonna fall back in the rhythm pretty easily because you've already done it. You're gonna be surprised usually like how quickly you kind of get back in the gist of things.
Like handling a rifle and formation
like
and all
drill,
that.
how to be loud, move fast.
Yeah.
So the bonus is most of the guys have already done it, and it's like you don't have as much idiots that are just suck at everything at seniors because they're either NROTC guys that they haven't been to OCS, but they're usually pretty squared away because they've been trying to go to OCS for like 3 years. They're pretty fit. The level of fitness and competitiveness in seniors is really high. Like if you're not running like a 295 PFT, you're in the slower end of your platoon. Like I remember our slowest guy was running like a 20-minute 3 mile. So like the level of competition, the band is very small at seniors, and they hold you to a high standard because you guys are like senior company on deck, Lima company. So you can't be jerking around when you're out, and like other companies are on the parade deck. But it is cool. I liked it a lot better. It's OCS, but like it was. I thought it was
easier.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like the caveat is yes, some of the evaluations are harder, but they were easier to conquer because the environment I thought was easier at seniors. I thought it was very different. Like for me, juniors sucked a lot worse than seniors. So you can have that to look forward to. Don't hype it up too much in your mind. Just go back there. You know what's going to happen. Be physically prepared, and you'll kick ass. It's not a big deal.
Would you have prepared any differently going to seniors?
No, I think I prepared very well. Like as much as we were working out,
Mhm.
that I was set. I was good.
Yeah,
I was running
well
300
prepared for,
PFT. Like I was
for
good.
OCC. I thought, the one thing like that we did more of than I guess, expected. Like they started integrating a lot more upper body, and we had been working out a lot, so I was prepared. We'd done a lot of weight training with our running, so I was fit both ways, but I just wasn't expecting as much of that when I got there. So like push-ups was like a big part of OCS. Like we did a fuck ton of push-ups.
Yeah.
Not that many pull-ups. I mean, you just don't do pull-ups that much.
Exactly.
But you train for pull-ups and you forget about
mech.
push-ups. So that's one thing.
The mech is just
Yeah,
total
the
body
mech.
break
Yeah,
off.
the mech. I haven't thought about that in so long.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that was like one of the toughest PT days, and yeah, I yacked my
Is that
guts
the one
out
where
on
you
that.
do like each station?
Yeah, it's
sprint
round,
each one?
round,
Yeah.
round
field.
Yeah,
it's
so
like
it would
first
suck.
week or so.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh my
Yeah,
god.
And you get through the
We
first
did-
round, and they're like, okay, let's
Yeah,
go
they're
again.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
and they don't tell you, but you'll know this time,
So-
so it's like not as
Yeah,
bad.
caveat for those that don't know, like you do everything twice. Like when you
Yeah.
think that you've done some really hard event physical wise, and you're like, holy shit, I just made it through that, I'm about to die. Prepare to do it again. Always expect to do it twice. Like, I mean, you
They're
know,
gonna push you until literally you almost die. Like the endurance course, they have ambulances everywhere and giant ice baths. Like when I remember we were getting ready to do the endurance course, and
fucking-
there was dudes. It was like this past summer, so it was a really hot summer, and there was guys like getting carted back on those little the Humvee ambulances, like seizing because their core temperature was like 108 was the highest that we had, which is like brain death. They had to take him to Walter Reed because he almost died.
So if that happens, what happens to that person? Right?
he comes back.
Well, if you,
unless he's like
108, I think he got sent home.
unless you
but-
physically can't continue.
Yeah, they'll give you a few days light duty, and then you're back training. If you
Then
heat
you're
case.
like, what is it, heat case? So you have a big yellow circle around on all your skivvies. So you know,
If it happens again, you get sent home.
Yeah,
So like
you get
if you
2 strikes.
if you have to if you pass out and you're having a heat stroke or whatever, you get 2 chances. If you do it once, they're like that's strike 1. If you do it twice, you have to go home.
it's gonna be hot. Like if you go in the summer, I don't know what your schedule is, like what your track is gonna be. But if you go in the summer, like it's gonna be hot. It's gonna be really humid, and you're gonna feel a lot of times like your body is heat casing. But you'll the only time you need to go down, like just resist it. You know, if you literally pass out, pass out. But short of that, just keep going. Eventually,
Drink a lot of water.
eventually, yeah,
All the time.
you're gonna be drinking a lot more water than you've ever drank in your life. Like literally,
Yeah.
drink a canteen before you go to sleep. You're gonna have to get up and piss. Like it's gonna happen. You're not gonna want to make yourself get up, but you will be in trouble if you don't. Like drink water at night, and then throughout the day be pounding canteens. Just like constantly
All the time.
drinking, and you can get used to that here too. Like constantly hydrate, because that's how these guys heat case. Is they don't take care of their bodies, or they didn't come in shape enough. Like if they just weren't where they needed to be, but they just didn't hydrate, or they were sick. Like we had one guy who he cased on the, what was it? I was gonna say 12 mile. We don't do that. It was the 6 mile hike. Yeah. So he had like really bad blisters on each foot. Didn't go to the corpsman because he didn't want to be seen, and they had become infected, and he had gotten a bloodborne infection. We didn't know this. He told me he didn't feel good. And I knew for a couple of days he didn't look great, but I just figured it was just the general candidate crud. And he, on the hike, it's dark, it's early in the morning. I just see him, somebody fall down, and I hear some crazy noises, and he's trying to walk using his hand. They told him to get up and walk, and he starts trying to stand on his hands. He was so fucked up in the head that he didn't know what was up and what was down, what was arms and legs. He had a core temp of over 108, and he almost died. He went home, and he was like, I'm never going back. But moral of the story is, if you're hurt, blisters, open wounds, they're extremely susceptible.
Injured.
Yeah, if you're injured,
go to the corpsman.
if you're hurt, suck it up.
Yeah,
hydrate,
stretch, roll it out. You can bring a muscle roller to OCS. I don't care what anybody tells you. You're allowed.
They might try to take it away from you, but you can have it. Fight it. Yeah,
they'll give it
they're-
back to you eventually.
Yeah.
They had them for us there. Too.
Yeah, but
They will,
those
yeah.
will be on high demand. So if you want to bring your own, I brought my own, and it was pretty nice.
You are allowed to have them. They
Shit,
may
you
tell you
watch.
you're not having that shit, but
You're allowed.
have to turn into contraband for the first couple of weeks.
They'll give it back to you.
You'll
After
get it eventually,
the
yeah.
After
They took
the
mine away,
Ace
but-
phase,
Same thing with you're allowed to bring Carmex and Neosporin.
Yeah.
and
Anything
Band-Aids.
that's not, you can't have anything that's medicated.
They
So,
give you Neosporin actually. Did they have
Yeah,
those
use,
guys?
yeah, use a lot of
Use that shit,
Neosporin,
yeah.
because your fingers are gonna get infected,
the cuticles, I don't know
any what else? You
Like
gotta
cuts
watch your
and
feet
stuff.
too.
Yeah.
Anytime you get blisters, don't pop them. like unless the corpsman is doing it, because they'll get infected. Because you're living in an environment like, although you're keeping your squad bay clean, you're dirty all the time and you sweat so much that you're really susceptible to skin infections that can turn bad really easily. So you're not going to be able to stay as clean as you do in regular life, and so you really need to focus on using like Neosporin preventative measures. And vitamin C will help you keep from getting like respiratory stuff, because when you're living with all these guys
is really common.
and you're so active that it's not specifically bronchitis, but it can turn into bronchitis if you because you can't really treat it, which is just basically like a mild infection in your lungs from like the dirtiness and all the bacteria you're breathing in. So you're gonna be coughing up a lot of nasty shit, but like don't let it freak you out. Like you're not gonna die. You can still breathe and do physical activity, and it usually doesn't affect your physical performance that much. But again, if something gets bad to where like you're really, really messed up, go see the corpsman, because they are there to keep you going. I don't care like what anyone tells you, like they're not there to send you home. They're there to keep you going, but only go to the corpsman if you are in dire need. Because if you're going there like on a regular basis, we had guys that did that, and yeah, a couple of them did manage to graduate, but like their recommendations, everyone hates you, yeah, because
you hear evals.
You're missing stuff. Yeah, you miss events when you go to the corpsman, and you don't want to be doing that. Yeah, and then again, Marine Corps is a small place. Like, do you think that I'm going to see those guys again when we get the fleet?
TBS.
At TBS.
Still do peer evals at TBS.
You're going to see you're going to stay with all these people. Like I just said, the Marine Corps is a small place. So especially the officer corps, these people are going to be your peers for your entire time in the Marine Corps. So the impressions that you make now, and again, don't take this as you're there to make impressions on your peers. You're there for you at OCS. You're there to be evaluated as an individual.
But it's a team effort.
Exactly.
It's
So-
a team effort,
Right.
not an individual. You cannot graduate OCS by saying, like, fuck y'all, I'm climbing to the top
People will do
myself.
that. You will see a lot of people
And they
do
will
that
fail.
around you, and they will try to be alpha males and they'll try to be big dogs, and that is not the mindset that you need to have as a Marine officer. So
No.
you will fail, and fail again, and you will not be loved by your Marines or your peers as an asshole. So like some guys, they watch war movies, they look at their sergeant instructors at OCS, and they think that means that that's how I need to lead, and they think they need to be assholes, and they need to be disrespectful and demeaning to the people that they're trying to lead, even if it's their peers. That is absolutely the wrong way to go about that. You never have to be an asshole at any time as an officer.
Earlier,
Your job,
there was a question about one of your guys had a question about tips for leadership. Again, like we're not the end all be all.
Yeah, this is a
of
big
leadership advice, but just things that I've seen in other lieutenants or candidates, if it was at OCS,
Things that made them fail.
good, bad things. So like good things. So basically, here are things to try and do when you're in a leadership billet or just in your everyday life. One, be a good guy. Just be a fucking good dude. Be yourself when you're in a leadership position, because if you get a billet and now it's Monday and you have this new billet and you're like a totally different guy and you're like a hardo asshole, but like all your buddies, like we know that's not you because we hang out with you every other day of this past few months. Like people aren't gonna take you seriously because they know you're trying to front or whatever, be some person that you're not really. So be yourself, be a good dude. Don't be condescending or an asshole ever in a leadership. Like
that is like a foot stomp.
Even if you're pissed off, there are respectful ways. And I'm not saying you have to like be like tread the thin line, be like a super nice guy.
This is where you make your money though. Like the
fine
gray
line,
area. The gray area is where you're making
like
money.
without losing your shit and being a dick. Like you can hold your peers accountable and make them feel like shit for something they did that was really bad.
You can be loud and be aggressive
without
being a douche, right? Yeah, you can be loud and be aggressive without demeaning people, without saying inappropriate things. Like, always remember that the way your sergeant instructors treat you is 100% unique to that training environment. It will not migrate outside of there. You're never going to see that again.
They're literally just doing
That's only an
OCS.
OCS. That's only an OCS thing. That is not like you just said. It's not a leadership model. So when you are leading at OCS, the be yourself thing is a really big one because people try to be a leader that they've seen somewhere else in a movie. They saw some guy, you know, they want to be like him. I want to be that loudmouth guy, or I want to be, you know, big, strong Johnny Bravo. Like, it's, you can't be somebody else. You got to be you. And as a leader, you're trying to incorporate those leadership principles and leadership traits into your leadership style.
Yeah.
So everybody's got a leadership style, and you need to use yours.
But you can totally pull from things
no,
you like
yeah,
about
you
others.
can,
Yeah.
you can, but
I do that.
But don't try to be someone
Right.
else as a leader. Don't try to be
because
them.
if it's not you,
Right.
it's gonna your peers and your
You won't be able to maintain it either
because
because when you get stressed and when shit starts to hit the fan, like you won't be able to maintain a facade of somebody else or something that's not natural to you. So you have to learn to lead as yourself.
Okay, so yeah, be a good dude, be yourself. Don't be a dick, and
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, hold other people accountable.
You'd be surprised. People don't get that.
Those are central themes. Yeah, I'm stealing that from Captain Fontanez. And then hold your peers accountable, and don't be afraid of maybe. Again, this is kind of conflicting with don't be a dick thing, but don't be afraid of hurting somebody's feelings if you know what they're doing is wrong. Because if you're in a leadership position, especially when you get to TBS, you have a lot of very expensive and dangerous things that you're put in responsible for, like hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment that you are given, and they're like, okay, you signed for this, now that's on you, like Lieutenant McMillan. You have this, and if it gets lost or fucked up, you're responsible for it. So your billet holders, if you're in a billet, you need to be, if there's ever any doubt in your mind about somebody actually has touched and seen something that you're responsible for, or whether they've actually done something, or whether they've done it the right way, you need to check, double check. You don't need to micromanage, but just make sure shit's getting done. And because you can trust your guys, but if you don't have 100%, I would trust my life with this guy, you need to go check. Because we've had situations where billet holders at TBS, like in this, they're getting graded on this billet, like they're a platoon commander, and then one of their Marines leaves an M9 Beretta pistol at the range because they took it off their waist to shoot and they left it somewhere because they're fucking stupid. And then they told their billet holder that they had it. They were going around and we do checks every time we move somewhere. They're like, yep, I got it, I checked. But the billet holder didn't check. He trusted that they were telling him. And that guy may have thought they did have it. He just forgot that he left it. He didn't check though, because he was like, yeah, it's in there. You realize at the end of the day, it's fucking gone.
Never trust
and
on that.
you know, they find it. But that kind of thing happens at TBS with, we had a PEC 16, so it's a laser light module and an infrared laser serialized gear that's attached to your rifle. It had fallen off. The guy had told his billet holders throughout the entire day that it was on there, which this is the mind-blowing thing. You can literally
right there,
see it.
yeah.
You can see it.
They were so going through the motions
so
that they weren't even
internal.
looking at his rifle when they were doing gear checks.
So
Which is just
such a
mind-
lack of attention to detail that he did not realize the entire day during a field exercise that it had fallen off. And by the end of the day, they realize it's gone. Their platoon has to go out there every single weekend and comb the fucking woods like Hansel and Gretel looking for this thing for 3 or 4 weeks, I think it was. Every weekend, they didn't go home. They stayed there and looked for this motherfucker until they found it. And in the end of the day, they actually didn't find it. Another company that was out training in the tree line found it. But you know what? 5th Platoon of Fox Company is now legendary throughout TBS as being fucking
we heard
idiots.
about it,
Even though
yeah.
it was literally maybe 3 guys in that chain of command that weren't doing their job. And what do you think happens to them? They get in a fucking world of shit.
Yeah, do you think they're going to get the MOS that they want?
Nope.
Like, if one of them wants combat
That shit
arms,
stays with you.
they will not. Like
One major fuck up like that, and your career is forever changed in the Marine Corps, because that is a huge deal.
So to bring this back around to how this matters to you guys, you're going to be in charge of accountability. So this is all about accountability of people and of gear are your two big things. And you're going to be in charge of that at OCS too when you're a billet holder. So it starts with the fire team leader. The fire team is your 4 Marines. And the fire team leader is only in charge of those 4 guys, their gear, and their lives, and making sure that they've got all that they don't lose it, and that they go where the squad leader needs them to go. So accountability literally, you know, whether you're the fire team leader when you're at TBS or OCS, because after that you're going to be the platoon commander, or you're the platoon commander, you need to be ensuring that those fire team leaders are getting 100% accountability at all times, because it starts, like, the buck stops with the fire team leader. And I had problems with that at TBS because I had Marines, when I was a fire team leader at TBS, you know, not evaluated billet. People tend to blow it off sometimes at TBS, but literally accountability starts and ends with the fire team leader. So like, if you're not ensuring, like literally doing gear checks whenever you move, you can literally walk up a trail. You know, you're doing like a little, you know, you call it admin move from point A to point B. Shit will just fall out. Like you don't think it would. Zippered pouches will come open when you move. Things will fly off your rifle in the night, like NVGs that aren't, like everything should be dummy corded, which is basically, again, they're not going to let you do this they won't let you
wire
do it.
and cord. We use both. We have double dummy.
They won't let you do it at OCS because you have to have everything the same. But you know, the principle of dummy cording is you keep everything literally attached with a string or wire to your rifle or to your body if it's, you know, in your admin pouch there.
That long cord or compass. That's what
again, like. The idea behind accountability is extremely important because it's attention to detail and it's give a shit about your job. You know, if you're going around like, all right, you know, I'm checking you got everything, yeah, okay, you know, okay, sweet. Like, how do you know if he has everything in his pouch?
He might think he does,
and that's the thing. He may think he does. He probably thinks he does, and until he looks down, his fucking pouch is open and his compass and MVG are gone. You know, that stuff is gonna happen to you guys at TBS, but you can ensure that it doesn't happen to you by, if you're a fire team leader, if you're a squad leader, like, you know, squad leader, going to your fire team leader and saying, hey, I want like eyes and hands on checks all here. Every time we get a gear check, you're gonna put your hands on it. And they're gonna do it. Like at TBS, at OCS, there's gonna be people doing crazy bullshit because you have people there that aren't gonna make it. At TBS, everyone there is lieutenant. When you tell them to do something, they're gonna do it. But that's up to you to pass those orders.